Hey and welcome back to my channel. I have been living in Toronto now for a year and a half and it's been a very wild ride, and I feel like because it's the end of the year, it's a good time to reflect on my time here and in the lens of connecting it to one of the reasons why I moved here. One of the reasons was that I wanted to be in a place where I feel it's very representative of millennials and Gen Z and also upcoming generations. And I wasn't disappointed. I was not disappointed. So I think the good, the bad, the challenging, the opportunity, the inspiring, all of that is really, really central here. And as I said, very representative. And I want to reflect on the city and how I felt about those topics. The main themes I will talk about is community and society, communal purpose. Then it would be about personal well-being, relationships as well. And then also about technology and work and the workforce in general, your workplace. And yeah, let's go for it. I did blend in some of the videos I filmed about the city in the background as B-roll material. It hasn't been the most sunny day, but I hope you like it anyways. And I will put in some other pictures with my friends and my experiences here. And yeah, let's get started. As you can see, I need a coffee as well. It's a bit more of a laid-back reflection video today, but also in the same time I do want to announce what this channel will go toward and where we are headed. And yeah, let's start with the first topic. So, what can I say about society and community? As I said, I only lived here for 1.5 years, so I'm not a born Canadian. But I still think I have a pretty good grasp by now how life is here and how societies and communities are formed. And the one big thing that connects us and shapes the identity of Toronto is diversity. So you have, I think, over 200 spoken languages, more than half of the people living here not born in Canada. And that's a very inspiring and interesting place to live in. And I think it also represents, to link to the video again, kind of our generation, right? We are getting more and more open-minded, we accept more diversity, we are more open for different thought, different backgrounds, religion, non-religion, whatever it is. And I think that's amazing, and that's a very positive thing, and we can learn a lot from that. At the same time, what I feel is, since it's such a widespread diversity, it is difficult to find a clear identity, right? I'm from Germany, I'm from Europe. In Europe we have diversity as well, and we have different types of lifestyle as well, but it's not on the same scale like a city like Toronto would be. So in Germany you still feel like you are in Germany. In Spain you feel like you are in Spain. But here you feel like you are just in a very global community, which again has the benefit of feeling very accepted. People are very open, no one really cares about your accent and all of that. But it lacks a bit of identity, I have to say. So diversity can be an identity, and it is part of the identity, but if it's the only or the predominant factor of the identity of a society, of a community, then it's hard to find common ground sometimes, or it's hard to expect how to behave sometimes, or it's hard to understand what are the manners, what are the values, what can you expect from people as well. And I think that's something that to link back again to the video, we have to struggle with and challenge ourselves with on a global scale. So since we are getting more and more globalized, not just in Toronto, more and more diverse, the inclusion is a great aspect, and it feels people, yeah, as I said, to be included. But to work on a communal identity, a societal identity is also very important. That's part of what gives us as people meaning and purpose and belonging. You feel connected with your community, with your people, with your city, with your country as well. And I don't think that that's an easy task for a city like Toronto because of the diversity. But nonetheless, the fact that we can all live together without too much clash is amazing and very inspiring. And I think in my common videos and also projects, I will announce more about that soon, I want to work on that. I want to continue as much as I can as one person, and hopefully with you guys as well, to build communities and to strengthen that sense of community that we have a very good basis for, because the love and the openness is there. Okay, now let's come to the topic of personal well-being and relationships. I think the first topic I would mention here is individualism. There are those 5 traits also, I think around 5 traits where you can analyze societies based on, and I think Canada has individualism very, very high, and you can feel it here. People are very diverse, very very open. I used the word diverse way too often already, I think, but very open and exploring different personalities, different orientations, whether it's sexually or in activities, politically, religiously. I think you have a melting pot here in that sense, and the amount or the density, I'd say, of very interesting, very different people I've met here, and I lived in Barcelona as well, and in Hamburg and also in South Korea for a bit, is very high. And that's, first of all, very, very inspiring and interesting. And you can feel that people also care a lot about self-actualization and discovering who they truly are, who's their true self, their true identity. But I think this can also be a challenge, and it is a challenge as well, because this individualism and this high emphasis on self-actualization can also turn to an obsession. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I know you probably had this pyramid, you've seen it way too often throughout your education. And I also don't think it's completely true and represented by reality. I think, for example, that self-actualization itself doesn't have to be on the peak of human developmental achievement. It can also be love and belonging you strive for, and it's way more interconnected than merely a pyramid. But I think what it shows is that you kind of want to go from step to step, or at least you want to have pillars. Not just step by step, you want to have pillars. You cannot just put everything on self-actualization, especially if the other things are not covered. And I do think that this is a challenge. This is kind of connected to the last aspect as well, with the community and communal aspect that is a bit lacking here, perhaps on a deeper level, and the belonging aspect. And people, I think, and including myself as well, we are trying to find the meaning in our self-optimization and our self-actualization, be it in creative expression, work, our social media profiles, I'll come to that in a second, and our identity as individuals in general, which is important, but I think it can be an obsession as well. And I think the alarming aspect about that is when you look at the statistics. I hopefully can find something here as well that is representative for Toronto and also for millennials and Gen Z in general. But mental health issues, at least here in Toronto, they seem to be very widespread, and I include myself as well. I also have my issues that I will probably mention in other videos. And that's, I think, without having all the data and all the thoughts done, at least also interlinked with that obsession about yourself, with the lack of community that I mentioned before. And one more thing that I also always hear is kind of that people, they are starving for stability and feeling grounded in a way. And I also include myself, I always say they. Like, at the same time we are working on self-actualization and the new project and the new thing we want to like self-actualize ourselves in, creativity, music, art, philosophy, YouTube channel, just like me. But we don't even have stability in a way, emotionally speaking, or we often lack that. And that's something that is super interesting to dive into, and obviously an important challenge. And the second step that maybe is linked to stability is then relationships as well. And this includes, I would say, mostly the intimate relationships, be it both like romantically, but also with close friends. I think Toronto is a good representation once again, because it's pretty easy to meet people. Again, the openness is really the lever here. That's a German translation, but you get me. But it's hard to make close friends. And that's, I think, typical in big cities. But here it's definitely something I feel as well. I'm fortunate enough to have made close friends, but it's definitely not easy, and stay in touch. And we all are struggling from that, not just here in Toronto, but on again, representatively in a very larger scale in the Western world, at least from what I know and from the cities I've lived in as well. For dating, there's a whole other category. I am fortunate enough that I have never used the dating apps. One week I was pretty lonely, I used them. But I think even though people can find someone there, and I heard very good stories, the lack of commitment and the abundance of choices, so it seems, and therefore the disappointments as well, they are pretty high here in the city. And I'm really curious to know how it is where you live, whether you're here in Toronto, what your impression is, or anywhere else in the world. How do you feel the dating culture is going? Put it in the comments, and yeah, there will be a video coming soon as well. And then also to kind of pre-bridge to the next topic about work, to make friends at work, which traditionally obviously has been one of the main areas to find intimate relationships, both romantically and friendship. 40% of baby boomers have friendships at work, and meaningful friendships, and 24% of Gen Zs. So it definitely fell down a bit, and obviously that's related to COVID, to working from home, etc. But I think some challenge we can also dive into. And then just to close up that chapter about personal well-being and relationships, we also here in Toronto, you can see that purpose is a very important aspect, and that's related to self-actualization, but not just that. Many people want to work on something bigger than themselves. Generally, I think that's where we as a generation go, and that's an amazing thing to acknowledge, and I feel that here in Toronto as well. Now the last chapter, technology and work. So I think one key topic here that includes sort of both in a way, but more on the technology front, is social media. There's still a very heavy usage here. I think numbers are still increasing. And this kind of connects to the last point of purpose. I think it's increasingly difficult for us to prevent ourselves to do things for the likes, for the external attention, for extrinsic motivational factors, so to speak. Even though we have a strong intrinsic drive and we want to be helping to make the world a little bit better, it is difficult to not fall for getting the approval outside and seeking for that very strongly. And I think that's a challenge that arises through social media that I was speaking before on this channel about. At the same time, I think that we hear more and more conversations about people either getting rid of social media or using it less. I don't think data necessarily backs that up, but at least in my circles, let me know how you guys are feeling about it. People are at least conscious about the problem, and they're trying to make an effort. But at the same time, I guess apps are getting stronger and stronger in captivating us and stealing our attention away. And then just coming to the last aspect, this is kind of the working from home and remotely aspect that definitely impacts us as a society and individually. I mentioned that already in terms of relationships and making friends. That's a challenge. Here's a statistic, how many of us that can work remotely actually do work remotely all the time, or at least most of the time, which is a very high number. And you can see here in the next statistic that is all done by Pew Research, if I'm not mistaken, that there are a lot of benefits, but also, again, making connections, feeling connected to your company, feeling connected to the people, your co-workers, to maybe coming back to this kind of communal identity that often has been found in work as well, to a certain degree. That's a challenge, and that's lacking for people. And I do feel that very strongly here in Toronto. Once again, really curious to see how you feel about all of these topics in the city you're living in. But that's something that I also want to dive in deeper. A lot of topics I know, but again, to summarize, we have, I think with Toronto, a very representative city of our generation, meaning Gen Z, millennials, and upcoming generations, in that we have very unique human beings, very open-minded, people that care about more than just the traditional corset you have to put yourself on, like you have to be that and that person because you're a man, you're a woman, you have this background, you have this whatever precondition that has been put into you and put onto your corset that you have to wear. We kind of got rid of that, and that's generally, I think, a very freeing experience. We have that. At the same time, we do lack of a communal purpose, of a communal identity that are interlinked as well, those two things. That is struggling, that is challenging. We have a work-life balance and a work style that allows us a lot of flexibility, but maybe again, deprives us a little bit of the shared sense of identity and community and connection with people. Aside from the heavy social media usage as well. And generally, I think we care a lot about becoming better as human beings, becoming a better human being, self-actualizing ourselves, which is amazing. Perhaps there's a little bit of an obsession about it that could be replaced by more love and belonging focus, at least in my opinion. And yes, I think that's it. I will definitely focus my videos and our projects in general on these three categories. You know me, I'm more of a creative person, so it's not always set into stone, and topics can be within all of those categories and intercross and whatever, where blue my hands go. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well, you had a good year, and if it was a challenging year, things will get better. I know it from my personal experience. And topics will come up, videos will follow, and thanks a lot for listening. I'm excited, more things will come next year for sure, and take care.